Okay, after reviewing the exercises, there is something I noted. I'm not sure how versant you are with the Git and GitHub, but given it's the basics is something we can cover in 20 minutes. You can just go through that because most of the exercises will be submitting through your repos. So, let me share my screen. So I'll just take one of the exercises that was submitted by one of you. Yeah, so this exercise was just a simple one. So I've picked the one I've not yet gone through. So of course this is just the PHP. So it's just a simple form where you capture the student details, the names, email, and the KRA pin, and then you submit that to so the student is submitting to the same file. So yeah, so then you have now to process that data. So as you can see, you just name the variables as the student has done. This is the where you want to store the data. Just to checking whether this is a post, then you proceed with just sanitizing the data and checking whether the data was filled. Of course, a key thing wanted to check is just to verify the pin. So as I requested, you had to use regular expression. So for this is just a regular expression, just making sure what the inputs start with the letter A to Z, then followed by a number which should be 9 digits, and then you are left with A to Z, any number. So this is okay. Yeah. Then of course you can add to make sure this is case insensitive. So this is what you are doing. So most of what I've checked is working as expected. So good work. Most of all of you, I think this file was here, and you can see, I don't know whether this is your personal pin. I think that's what prompted me to just take you a bit on the Git and GitHub. So this is very personal data. So I don't know if one of us have heard of the data governance that was introduced in Kenya by 2019. So by any means, this data should not be on your GitHub or any personal data or maybe secret keys, like maybe for example, you have an API key to your ChatGPT. Then that key, you are working on a project, then you push with even that key. Of course, someone else can take that and use that. So, of course, with Git, you can ignore this file. So, I think I will take us real quick. So, in your workspace, so you can just create a space here. Okay, so assuming you have a folder, of course, you can have as many files. So, of course, as we said, the entry of any project that any project will look at index.php or .html to start executing your app. So, of course, I'm going to generate just. So, of course, here you will have your code that you will work on. So, what we have said, Git, it will track any changes that you do in your workspace. So here, assume this is a project, run Git. so you can have as many files as possible. So within all those files, you'll be making a lot of changes, and other files you'll be doing some updates. So to track all that, that's why we are using Git to track all those changes. Of course, given that you are tracking each and every change, you can even revert back in history and check what you had done earlier. So, and of course, GitHub is where now you host your repos or your projects. So I'll just go through the basic commands that you'll use when working with Git. So first thing first, you'll just have to create an account with GitHub or other hosting platform like Bitbucket. So just create a repo. Of course, you had created this, so this should be easy. So I can just name it learn Git. So yeah, here you have your fresh repo that you have just initialized. So learn Git, this will be, say, your project name. Then of course you have these commands that you can initialize. So by default, this is just echoing learn Git to a readme file. So what is a readme file? So some of you had worked on this, others did not add that, but basically this is where now you record all, or maybe tell in a summary what your project does. Like for instance, in our case, we were just capturing details of a user and KRA. So you can say I'm capturing this, then storing that in a file. And of course, I'm doing validations. And I'm also utilizing maybe patents validation to check the PIN if it's correct. So all of that documentation you can include in this markdown file, which you have called readme. So of course they have a syntax, but you can just use a Copilot to assist you with the markdown. Yeah, as you can see, if I put a space, so this it gives a different color, meaning this will be like a heading one. Of course, you can use like 2# to go down below. But importantly, so we have a readme. So you get in it, you just initialize your repo, meaning now you tell it to start tracking whatever changes you make within your repository. So when you start a project, you initialize that repo. So once you do that, they start tracking all the changes that you'll do. Yeah, so let me just use that terminal. By default, you see we are on this is if you say git branch, let's say git branch, you get to see which branch you are on. By default, using this, you can see we are on a master branch. But so we can change that to any branch we want. But of course, I think due to slavery, they changed to say git branch. So you rename this. So this is just renaming from master to all this main. GitHub nowadays is main. So of course I can make sure I'm in the right. Yeah, you see they have changed to main. So you have to name that to be on the main branch. So usually when you work on the main branch, this you'll make changes on other, let's say, features that you are working on your project, but you don't make changes on your main branch. This is when you main branch, you just utilize it when you starting the project. So let's add a so let's push this repo so that we can move on. So just add a comment. So before we add any comment, you can use git status. So by doing git status, let me adjust this. I hope you can see clearly. So by doing git status, you just check. It's just basically what the name says, just checking the status of your repository. So you can see we have untracked files. Of course, later on you can have even the tracked files or committed files. So let's just commit this. So what this means by untracked file is that they are not yet in GitHub repository. So if you lose this project, you'll not be able to recover this. But let's say git add. So by losing, I mean by, let's say, God forbid, the system reboots and you have unsaved changes, not be able to recover. So we can add either individual file. So by individual file, you can copy it and paste it like that. Then maybe space, then you copy and paste like that. Or if I add an individual file, so you see we have changes to be committed. So this, you have untracked file. So so once you add the file like this, or you can add all by using git add, then just a dot to add all untracked changes. So of course by now you see you have untracked files, changes committed, changes to be committed. So then we have another one, changes committed. So once you commit, this tells your Git that those changes are ready to be pushed to the remote. So git add this, we add all. So if I say status again, changes to be committed, then we commit this, git commit. Let's call this first repo. Commit. So if I say status, let me just status again. You see we have a clean branch, meaning all the anything within our repository has been committed. Okay, so it is ready to be staged. If you make any change within the file like that and then you save, then you say git status TLC, you have made some changes. That's why it's saying modified. But in case it's a new file, it will just name the file. So then again, if you want to add that, well, you can add in. So I hope we are on the same page by now. So I want now to push this. Remember we had our GitHub. Maybe you are using GitHub, Bitbucket. There's also, So you want to push all your changes here on this remote. So what do you do after that? So you see, we remote add, then you add this remote add origin, then the URL. This points to your repo. Just saying the remote URL is this one. Then you push that main branch. So before we do that, you can configure just to point your just to point, let's say, Git. As you can see here, we have a message to add our details. And you can use this. So you can add your name so that Git can identify your details. So you can say. So of course, these details are stored on your file. This is your, if you go to the file explorer, then that project you are working on, all those configurations will be saved on this folder .git. So it's a lot of items there. So those configuration will be stored there. So once we do that, then we add the remote URL. So which is this git remote at origin. We point to your URL like that. Then we push our changes. It's highlighted there. And voila, now the changes has been pushed to that. So if I now refresh my repo here, you see all the changes. So this is the readme file. As I've told you, this is a syntax language. You see this is like a bigger heading than this one. So yeah, so another critical thing. So let's say I have my KRA data here. So ARA data.txt. So this is where now, as per our last exercise, this is where now we are storing the data. So what I'll come here and do, so you may also have, as we are going to see later on in our project, you can have other files like environment. You're gonna store all your environment variables. Let's say the database connection, password to your database, the database name, the host, all those data. So you add maybe in an environment file. So what you do is you come here and you create a duplicate of this. Yeah, and you can just call it env like that. The same with KLA data here. You can just to make sure that once a person can know that there is a file like this that exists once if a program is able to run successfully. So example, so why am I creating duplicate files? Is because there is a critical file you add to your repository. You call it git ignore. So this will ignore whatever you don't want to be pushed to the it's like that. So here you list if there is a folder, if there is a file, you list them here in the git ignore file. So like in my case, I don't want .env, I don't want KRA underscore data .txt. Okay. Let's save our files. So if I come here and say git status, let's just clear this. Git. So as you can see, you don't see .env file, also KRA data. But if you remove, let's say KRA data.txt, let's remove that and save. Then we say status. Now you see it's included in our untracked files. But once we add it there, it's no longer listed as tracked files. So now, of course, given I've already pushed my repo and I'm on the main branch. So once you push your changes and on the main branch, of course, and you confirm the changes on your GitHub. So I can just say, I don't want to push using this repo. This is also a great point to note, because you may work on changes in the wrong repository, especially if you are working as a team. So you can have a feature you are working on, your other team member has another feature they are working on. And you sometimes you may add your changes. Maybe you have worked like 3 files, done all your changes, and then you realize you are in the wrong branch. So you can just, of course, when you do git status, you have all your file, so you can add them individually. So you can add all the files you have made the changes. Okay. So it's readme. So even the modified one, you add them. You add them. So the reason I'm doing this, adding each individually instead of using git add then dot. Currently, our project is very small and we can use git add then add everything. But of course, when you scale, you'll find maybe there are many files that even have come, especially the vendor files or the node modules. If you have worked with Node.js, some of those files may come here to these untracked files, and you don't want to push those. So you can just select what you have worked on. Add that, git ignore. Of course. Yeah. So now that we have added the changes that we wanted, you can just commit those. So, and then of course you highlight what you are doing when you are working on that task. So the task you are working on was on adding git ignore to our repo, just like that. Of course, what we have committed is only what we have worked on, as you can see here. So then we don't want to push our changes that we have worked on using this main label. So in other setting areas, you'll find if you're working as a team, even this main branch is locked, so that you cannot push the changes to the main branch. So what we can do is git, then you can say checkout to a new branch, or if your branch already exists, you can just use checkout, or you can use switch. any can do. So if you switch to a branch that doesn't exist, say feature, use git branch, then name of your branch to create a new branch, or you can just so you check out to another branch. If you want to check out to a new branch that you have not created, you just give it that flag of a branch. Of course, we are on our new branch, so let's see git status. Of course, this is our, because we have committed. So git push. So of course, this will not work as we don't have this branch within our GitHub repository. But of course, you can git push origin, then your feature branch. Alternatively, you can just copy this command that will be given. And of course, those changes will go to your, you'll have a pull request to merge that with your main branch. So, of course, I want to create a pull request. Then we merge. So we are merging whatever we have worked on this branch back to our main branch. So merging, it means just pick all the changes that I've worked in this branch and move them also, merge them to the main branch, and that is done. So if you come to a project on the main branch, you'll see all even the git ignore. As you can see on this project, there is no like our friend did here. There is no KRA data, and there is no sensitive information that you are displaying, or you are just living in the public domain.
One question.
Yeah.
The merge part. Can you redo that?
We are on a feature git ignore branch. So have index. So let's assume here is where we are going to. This is an index, so we are assuming this is where we are going to have our form, the HTML form, where we are going to capture our details. So and just even copy maybe just so that we move together. Can just come here and copy this form, this HTML. So just let's escape this. Before I even proceed, let's okay. Let's just work with this branch. Of course, I hope by this point that issue of working each task or each feature should be on its own branch. So by doing that, let me just follow that and just say git status. Okay, git. So sometimes just to save time, if you have just a modified file, few files that are modified, can just say git. Okay, sorry for that. Can just say git commit, then flag. Of course, you know, if you type M is for the message, you can just provide AM. So A is just to add, M is for the message. Then you can say I've committed that, so I can switch just to maintain the standards. Check out on a new branch. We want a new feature. Then what is our feature? Our feature will be, let's say, capture. Even from that, you can note how descriptive even my branches are, so that even another team member can come and see, okay, this specific branch, it deals with capturing student details. Okay. So now I want to add a new file. Let's call it server.php because it's a PHP file. This will handle form submission. Great. Because this is just a copilot. Let me just. So let's just talk with that. Nothing major. And yeah, of course we are submitting. So our form will submit these details to this server. So I've worked on those changes. Of course, you had worked on this exercise, so you know this is just demonstrating the Git workflow. So you have worked on your changes. Now you want to submit these details. So Git, if check on our status, we have some changes, so we can just Git commit form to capture user details. Can just say, okay, as you can see, this time it didn't work because this is a new file. So this git commit add works on the modified file. So for this, just add our file, which is server.php. Then we can just commit that, then git push. So then I copy this. Of course, if you refresh by default, even if you don't refresh, you get this. You have a new pull request, so you need to merge it to your main branch. So, of course, there was that concept of merging. So, if we check our main branch, Git, you can use Git switch or Git checkout. Let's use switch. We have not used this. Where is our? You see here, it says even, it's like it says deleted. So if you can see my tooltip there saying this file is deleted, let's just remove it. So my server.php file is no longer there. Whatever form I added here is no longer here. Okay. So now that concept of merging is where you say, okay, there are some changes maybe my team was working on. There were some changes my team member was working on. Okay, if I pull the main branch, which is of course, each and every team member will push changes there once they have done working on them. So you can tell your team member, hey, I can't see your changes. Kindly make sure you have pushed your changes to the main repo. Then the team member say, oh, okay, let me check on this. Then they come to the repository and see, oh, I've not merged my pull request to the main branch. So come here, compare pull requests. Of course, in most organization, if it's a tech company, you'll find a DevOps who normally, or maybe senior developer who will review. Of course, there is also code reviews, if you have heard of the term, where maybe other developers are invited to approve of your changes and make sure you are not pushing bugs to the project where others are also working on. So of course they can come here and maybe check all your changes. You can see all the changes. So this is the concept of merging. You see, this is the new changes that are being introduced to our repository. So we have, okay, you can say on the index file, you have additional. So here you removed this comment. That's why it's more in a danger color. Then, of course, this is a success, which is green. So this is additional. You can see plus plus, less. Then this is a new file. It's additional. Of course, everything is plus. So these other developers or team members will review your changes, and if there are some bugs you are sending to the project, they'll just reject your pull request, and then of course they'll comment and tell you to change. So I'm just telling you this because that's what in a working environment you'll encounter. So assuming the reviews are correct, so you can just create a pull request. So now we are merging from our branch to the main branch. Of course, what Git will do is check whether there are any conflicts. Okay, it's another concept we'll take a look into once you are in your project. Once your senior teams check your changes and confirm, now the changes have been merged or have been compiled to the main branch. So all your changes that you worked, captures to the details have been merged. Now you can find them in the main branch. So in your local repository, let me just adjust this. Still, we do not have the changes that were merged to our GitHub. You don't have the server index file, it's empty. So I can just say git pull. Before we even pull our changes, like let's say if you clone this repository that I've created, normally you'll get only the main branch. So if you want to get all the branches, you can use git fetch. So you are fetching, then you can say git fetch all. So it will, okay, it's supposed to be, yeah. So this will fetch everything from your remote repo. Okay, so git, so this now is on my everything on my remote repo. It's on my, there is a .git here which you cannot see, but we can see this one. So everything has been pulled to this small branch here, this small hidden file. But to see our changes in the main branch, which we did merge, you can say git pull. You can even specify origin main. And you can see you have your index has been populated with the form. We have our server.php, which is now here. Are we clear on that concept of merging? Great. Silence means you are comfortable on that. I want to create a conflict. Let me just switch. We have our form here, just the way it is. Let's just copy the entire file. Let's see our branches. Git branch. So if you say git branch, it will list all your branches, and of course an asterisk on the main branch that you are on. So I want to go to the feature ignore. So git checkout or git. Okay, let's now use git checkout to feature. Yeah. Just switch up to the main because we have the form already, which I had copied. So we have our server here. So I want to copy that, then I'll quickly switch back to our git ignore. So we don't have this file, okay? Server.php, but I can, let's save it, okay? Who can predict what will happen? Of course, we have three branches. We have our main branch, we have our feature git ignore, and we have another feature capture students. So assuming this, you as a team member, maybe you are two of you, you had started on the project and initialized the main repo. Then one of you was working on this feature git ignore. Then your other colleague was working on the capture student details. Okay, for capture student details, they pushed the changes and merged with the main branch, and everything went okay. Now your other colleague happens to work on the same file and the same changes. So let's see whether we'll create a case of conflict. Git add, we want to add that. Git commit, let's call it server changes. Then we want to push our result. So our changes have been pushed. Sometimes they tend to hide. Oh, yeah. So of course, how I've come to, you can, so in case you don't see direct how to match that. So one of the thing you can do, let me just do this. So of course, to access our pull request, once you come to your branch, learn Git, your repository, I mean, you can be able to see merge pull request. Of course, you can see it. You can click there. So if you can't, you can come here to the pull request. Let's go here and see. If none, the easiest thing, you can go to the branch itself. Let's go there. So that it doesn't give us many issues. One commit ahead. So you can create a pull request. So we want to push our changes to the main branch, the one we have made for our server.php. Let's hope we'll get a conflict. No conflicts with the base. Okay. So in my case, it has gone ahead and merged, but let's go to the main and see. Okay, in my case, it has merged, but you may have some of those issues with the conflict where maybe two different individuals who are working on the same files, there are some conflicting issues. So you have to resolve this, you must pull and accept the changes that are appropriate. I don't know how we can create a conflict, but I can just continue. As we work with our projects, in case we come across a conflict, we'll be able to resolve, and you'll be able to see how to go about that. So, of course, the README file basically explains what your project does. So, on my case here, you can just use your Copilot just to tell it to document everything, what your project does. Of course, I hope you know how to use the Copilot. So in case there is a certain module, you can target that by, let's say, at a specific file or folder. Then So let's quickly generate a